He kissed her goodbye as she left for a work retreat, suitcase packed and schedule vague. She promised no phones, just team building. Alone that weekend, he turned on the TV for background noise. A travel show aired live coverage from a Caribbean cruise. At first, it was just calming waves. Then he froze. There she was, his wife in sunglasses, laughing on the deck, not alone. A man had his arm around her. And beside them, her sister sipping wine like it was normal. He hit rewind, paused, zoomed. It wasn't just her, it was her secret lover, and her own sister was in on it. His hand shook as he took a screenshot. His wife didn't know he'd seen it, not yet. But he had evidence, and the ship was still at sea. Then the camera panned, and her sister looked straight into it. Before we continue, do me a favor. Hit like and subscribe so you never miss what's next. It started with a suitcase and a carefully timed lie. She stood by the door in business casual, a rolling bag at her heel, and her phone turned off before she even left the driveway. She kissed him on the cheek, lingering just long enough to sell the goodbye. "It's just a company retreat," she said. "You know how these things are. No phones, no distractions. Just seminars and strategy sessions. I'll be back in 5 days." He nodded, not because he believed her, but because questioning her had become exhausting. For months now, things had shifted. Her texts were shorter, her weekends busier, her perfume stronger when she came home late, but she was careful, always careful. No receipts, no texts left open, nothing blatant. Just space. Just enough emotional distance to make him question himself. Still, this work trip felt different. She had never mentioned it until 2 days before departure. The company name sounded familiar, but the timing was off. He remembered hearing about their last retreat happening 6 months ago. When he asked who was going, she paused a beat too long. Then she rattled off names. Co-workers he'd never met, one of them conveniently pregnant and supposedly rooming with her. "Don't overthink it," she said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. She left at sunrise. The first day passed in a blur. He cooked for one, watched a rerun of a crime show, and fell asleep halfway through it. But on the second day, something cracked. He wasn't snooping, not intentionally, he just noticed. Her work bag was still under the kitchen counter, the one she always took on trips. Her reading glasses were on the nightstand. She never went anywhere without them. The logic didn't make sense. That night he stayed up late flipping through channels, hoping to distract himself from the gnawing unease in his chest. That's when it happened. A commercial break rolled into a travel segment. Bright music, blue skies, a cruise ship slicing through the Caribbean like a floating palace. He almost changed the channel. Almost. But something caught his eye. The camera panned across the ship's deck, full of sunbathers, poolside drinkers, and families. Then it zoomed in on a group of 3, a woman in large sunglasses and a red sundress, laughing, relaxed, a man beside her, his arm wrapped casually around her waist, athletic, tan, confident, and next to them, another woman holding a cocktail, her blonde hair unmistakable. He blinked. He sat forward. His hand trembled as he reached for the remote. He hit pause, zoomed in, then his blood ran cold. It was her, his wife, on the cruise, not at a work retreat. Her sunglasses couldn't hide the truth. Her laugh gave it away, that open-mouthed, carefree sound he hadn't heard in months. And the man, not a co-worker, not her boss, someone he'd never seen before. But the way she leaned into him, and it wasn't subtle, they weren't pretending, they didn't think they were being watched. And beside them, her sister. Her sister. The betrayal tightened around his chest like a noose. His wife hadn't just lied. She hadn't just cheated. She had taken a trip with her secret lover and brought her own sister along to cover it up. He stared at the screen, disbelief melting into white-hot rage. He hit rewind, watched it again. The footage didn't lie, and just before the segment ended, the camera angle changed, and her sister raised a glass and looked straight into the camera. He sat frozen, remote still in his hand. The TV paused mid-frame, like it had caught a ghost in motion. A ghost wearing his wife's face, smiling, with someone else's hand on her hip. The living room, dim and silent, felt like it had shrunk. The walls pressed in. His breath came shallow. He hadn't imagined it. There she was, his wife, and beside her, the man she had lied for, and just steps away, her sister, acting like it was nothing. He stared at the screen for another full minute before moving. Then he exhaled, slow and trembling, and pressed rewind. He played the segment again, slower this time. It was a cruise commercial, shot like a lifestyle ad, beach shots, dining scenes, live music. But halfway through the footage, they cut to the pool deck. That's when the shot landed on them. He paused and zoomed. This time he captured screenshots. One of his wife and the man laughing together. Another of the sister clinking glasses. He took out his phone and snapped pictures of the paused screen, just in case. Then he transferred the recording to a USB drive. He labeled the folder Proof. He played it again. This time he noticed more. How she looked at the man, how her body leaned into his as if they had known each other for years. She wasn't trying to hide anything. In her mind, he wasn't watching, but he was. He sat back, feeling the sting of betrayal sink deeper with every detail. His wife, the woman he had built a life with, hadn't just cheated. She had crafted a performance, an alibi, a staged business retreat, complete with fake co-workers and a no-phone excuse to avoid check-ins. And her sister. He couldn't even begin to process that. What kind of sibling smiles beside your husband's wife while she lies and cheats on national television? It wasn't just betrayal. It was collaboration, a shared secret, a joint deception. He closed his eyes. The memory of her goodbye replayed. The careful tone, the firm hug, the fake affection. It wasn't a goodbye from a loving wife. It was a send-off from someone who had already chosen someone else. At 2:43 a.m., he started digging. He pulled up the cruise company's website, cross-referenced the dates the ship had sailed, matched the pool deck shot to the cruise schedule. It lined up. The segment was filmed 2 days earlier. She had told him she'd be in a seminar that day. He checked the airline, looked at typical departure times, did the math. Her lie didn't just stretch, it snapped. She couldn't have been at a conference. She was already on the ship by then. Every answer led to another damning contradiction. He created a document titled Timeline. Dove deception. Day 1, kissed goodbye. Claimed no phones. Day 2, cruise footage aired. Timestamp. 11:34 a.m. local time, visible on footage. Screenshot, her in red dress, man's arm around waist. Screenshot, sister raising glass to camera. He built a folder and filled it with all the evidence, screenshots, cruise metadata, and saved clips. Then he backed it up twice. He wasn't going to confront her unprepared. He was going to wait. The cruise would end in 3 days. He checked the return port, Miami. He had her airline itinerary saved from a previous vacation. She always used the same email for confirmations. He found a flight under her name, returning the day after the cruise docked, booked under her frequent flyer number, another mistake. Now he had her return schedule. He didn't eat the next morning. He didn't sleep. He spent the day making arrangements, called a lawyer, asked about infidelity laws in their state, ordered high-quality prints of the footage, stills, full color, timestamp visible, contacted a friend who worked for a travel blog, confirmed the cruise show was airing nationwide. The betrayal wasn't just personal, it was public. He began writing the divorce petition in a blank doc. He didn't cry, he didn't scream, he didn't pace, he planned. 3 days later, he stood outside the cruise terminal in Miami. The sun was blinding. Tourists bustled past him, unaware that he wasn't there to welcome anyone. He wore sunglasses, not to hide his identity, but to study hers, and then he saw her, wheeling a suitcase, arm looped through the same man from the cruise footage. She was laughing, hair pulled back, like nothing had ever happened, and behind them, her sister. Walking in flip-flops, sipping iced coffee, looking bored, he stepped into their path. They didn't notice him at first. Then her eyes met his, and she froze. Her eyes locked with his, and time cracked open. She hadn't prepared for this. She hadn't needed to prepare. In her mind, the lie was secure. He was supposed to be home believing the work retreat fantasy. But now, here he was. In the flesh, standing at the end of the dock in the Miami heat, wearing sunglasses and a button-down shirt, and holding something in his hand, a manila envelope. She froze mid-step. The man beside her noticed the shift. "What's wrong?" he asked, still gripping the handle of her suitcase. Her sister, a few feet behind, looked up from her iced coffee, confused. Then she saw him too, and her expression collapsed. No words were exchanged, just a slow, controlled movement as he lifted the envelope chest high. He pulled out a print, a full-color still from the cruise footage. Her, red dress, lover's arm around her waist. Sister sipping wine in the background. Timestamp in bold black, 11:34 a.m., Caribbean Dream Cruise segment, national broadcast. She didn't speak. The sister's face flushed instantly. "Oh my God," she muttered, stepping back. The man beside them, the so-called lover, tilted his head. "Who is this?" he asked. The husband didn't answer him. He looked directly at his wife, not yelling, not crying, just looking, like someone who had already buried the version of her he loved. "You were at a retreat?" he said calmly. She opened her mouth, closed it again. The wind picked up. "I saw you on TV," he continued. "Not just you. Him," he gestured to the man, "and her." His eyes landed on the sister, who was now slowly backing away like she hoped to vanish. The lover glanced at the print. "Wait, this was filmed." Her silence answered everything. The husband pulled out a second image, the sister raising her glass mid-toast, eyes locked directly into the cruise camera. "I guess they didn't tell you it was a national segment," he said. "I caught it by accident. ESPN cut to commercial. Then this aired." Still, she said nothing. Her mouth was slightly open now, but no sound came. The man looked between them all, his brow furrowed. "What the hell is this? You said you were separated." Ah, there it was. Another lie exposed. The sister's hand flew to her face. "You told him you were separated," the wife finally spoke. "I didn't think he'd find out." The husband laughed, not out of joy, but out of disbelief. "You lied to him, you lied to me, and you dragged your own sister into it like she was your wingman." The sister turned away, eyes glassy, ashamed. She couldn't even look at him. Security at the terminal began to take notice, but they didn't approach. The scene, though tense, wasn't loud. It was surgical. He reached into the envelope again, pulled out one final print, a screenshot of the cruise schedule matched with her boarding date. "Just so we're clear," he said, "you left on the cruise the same day you told me you were attending a strategy seminar. I checked the footage metadata. I checked the timestamp. It was broadcasted 2 days ago. You were on national television." She swallowed hard. The lover stepped back now, letting go of her suitcase. "You lied to everyone?" he said. She turned to him. "I was going to tell you later. I didn't know he'd—" But he was already walking away. The husband didn't follow him with his eyes. He was done watching anyone leave. He reached into the envelope one last time and pulled out a clean, neatly clipped folder. "The preliminary divorce petition. I've already filed," he said. "You'll be served by end of week." She flinched. The sister took another step back. "Look, I didn't know how to say no to her. I thought—" "You thought covering for your sister while she cheated on her husband was harmless." The sister's voice cracked. "I didn't sleep with anyone." "But Rios helped her hide it," he interrupted. "You helped her build it." She had no answer. The wife stared down at the papers like they were radioactive. "So this is it?" He nodded. "This is it." People were watching now. A few passers-by had slowed, trying to piece together the scene. The betrayal wasn't just exposed. It was public. And this time he didn't feel small. He didn't feel broken. He felt done. The last emotion he allowed himself was a moment of regret, not for losing her, but for ever trusting her in the first place. "I thought we were still trying," he said. "Even when you were pulling away, I thought it was a rough patch." He looked at her one last time. "But this? You didn't just lie. You turned your sister into an accomplice, and you let someone else put his hands where a wedding ring was supposed to matter." He turned, folder still in hand. As he walked away, her sister slumped onto a bench. The wife didn't follow. She just stood there, eyes on the ground, surrounded by evidence she couldn't erase. He didn't look back as he walked through the terminal, the folder under his arm, the weight finally shifting from his chest to his steps. Each stride was steadier than the last, as if every printout, every screenshot, every moment of televised betrayal had finally anchored him. The cab ride was quiet. The city moved on outside his window, oblivious to the implosion that had just happened on the cruise port walkway. He stared out at the skyline, feeling something strange stir inside him. Not anger, not pain. Clarity. She had made her choice. Now he was making his. The next morning he walked into his lawyer's office with everything sorted, digitally and physically. No drama, just documentation. He placed the envelope on the lawyer's desk and slid over the USB drive. The lawyer raised an eyebrow. "You brought evidence?" He nodded. "Broadcasted on national television. Time-stamped. I have high-res stills, metadata, and travel schedules matched with her statements." The lawyer opened the folder and whistled. "This is airtight." "She lied about a work retreat," he added calmly. "Told me no phones, company policy, but she was on a cruise with her boyfriend and her sister. All of it's on tape." The lawyer scanned the photos. "Your wife's sister is involved." "Front row," he said, fully complicit. The lawyer nodded slowly, clearly impressed by the thoroughness. "You've got cause: infidelity, coordinated deception, possible alienation of affection, if you want to push it." "I just want out," he said, clean, sharp, and fast. The lawyer leaned back in his chair. "We'll hit her with everything. Serve her while she's still unpacking her cruise clothes." He nodded. The pen was in his hand a moment later. The signature felt like the first exhale after holding his breath for months. By noon, the first volley of fallout had begun. His wife's. Phone rang twice, then again, this time from an unknown number. He didn't answer. He wouldn't answer, but by the time he got home, the real explosion had already begun. His phone lit up with texts from her mother. "Is this true? Please call me." "I saw the screenshots. Why is everyone talking about a TV segment? Apparently..." His wife's sister hadn't expected the stills to circulate, but he had sent them, just 2 photos, to her family group chat before blocking the number. No caption, no explanation, just evidence. He hadn't meant to go nuclear, but he wasn't about to let her rewrite the narrative behind closed doors. The sister's silence cracked first. She called him later that night, 3 times, then left. Their voicemail. "I didn't know she'd go that far, and I thought it was just a rebound thing. She said they were separated. She made me promise not to say anything. I didn't think it would go this far." He didn't reply. What could she possibly say? She'd sat poolside while her married sister giggled in the arms of another man, on national TV. Silence is consent. By the 3rd day, her father had reached out. An old school man, never one to get involved, but the message was short and sharp. "She disrespected you. I raised her better." It was the first time he'd felt anything close to validation from her family. The court date was set. He opted for a no-fault filing with attached proof. The lawyer had advised that while infidelity could influence the split, the visual evidence alone would keep any judge focused. The images would speak louder than words, and they did. He changed the locks the following day, packed a suitcase of her things and left it by the garage door. The rest, clothes, photos, shared keepsakes, he boxed quietly. Not out of rage, but out of finality. He cleared her side of the closet, tossed the mug with her name, removed her photo from the hallway wall. He lit a candle, cleaned the living room, watched the sunset without checking his phone. For the first time in months, the house didn't feel haunted. It felt still. And then came the final blow, not from him, but from the world. The travel segment that had exposed her. It went viral. Someone on Twitter clipped the moment. Her laugh, her lover's arm, her sister's toast. The caption read, "Imagine finding out your wife's cheating on you because of a travel commercial." It got over 2 million views in 48 hours. He didn't post it. He hadn't needed to. The internet did what it always does. She called again, this time from a friend's number. He didn't pick up. Then came the email. "I messed up. I panicked. I didn't mean for it to go that far. I still love you. Please. Don't let this go viral. I'm humiliated. I'll do anything. He read it once, then archived it. Her fear wasn't about hurting him, it was about exposure. She wasn't sorry she did it. She was sorry she got caught. He stared at the final piece of evidence. A close-up of her face, mid-laugh. The ocean behind her. Sunglasses. Tilted just enough to catch the glint of the sun. That's the moment he chose to remember. Not the wedding, not the birthdays, not the fake goodbyes. That image, her caught in the lie, unaware, surrounded by co-conspirators, was her real self. And now the whole world had seen it. The first court date was scheduled for a Monday. Neutral, uneventful, bureaucratic. But behind that calendar square was the quiet hum of a storm still spinning. She had tried everything to stall it. After the story exploded online, her calls shifted tone. From angry to tearful to calculated. One voicemail begged for privacy. Another said she was being harassed because of the footage. The last one, she claimed her mental health was suffering. He didn't answer. Not once. The man who used to sit by his phone waiting for her texts was gone, replaced by someone who had seen the truth with his own eyes and had it printed in full color. When the hearing opened, she arrived first. No lover beside her now, no sister in sight. She wore black. No makeup. Hair down. Like she thought a little humility might reset the narrative. But the courtroom wasn't a redemption arc. It was a reckoning. He entered second and calm, focused, holding a single envelope under his arm. Inside was everything. Cruise stills with timestamps, airline records, her no-phone message, the metadata. Proving she lied, a copy of the viral clip his lawyer placed it on the table with surgical precision. Her attorney glanced at it once, then leaned in and whispered something in her ear. She didn't move, just stared ahead, jaw tight. The judge reviewed. The documents in silence, no outbursts, no arguments. It wasn't needed. The betrayal had already been projected across television sets and social feeds around the country. The husband's lawyer made a simple case: repeated dishonesty, willful abandonment, emotional cruelty, public embarrassment. Her attorney tried to soften the narrative, saying the marriage was emotionally strained before the incident, that she acted recklessly, but had regret. Regret. The word clanged like a bell in an empty room. Regret isn't redemption, it's just damage control. The judge set the next phase in motion: asset disclosures, mediation options, timelines. The process was efficient, procedural, but as they left the courtroom, she reached for his arm. He didn't pull away. He turned and looked at her. "Why him?" he asked. Calmly, quietly. She opened her mouth, then closed it. Was it love, he pressed, or just escape? Tears welled, but her voice stayed flat. "He made me feel wanted, like I still mattered." He nodded. "Then I hope you end up with him." She flinched like she'd been slapped. That night, he found himself back in his home office, the same room where he had first captured the footage. But this time he opened a different folder, not labeled proof, not divorce. It was one he'd created that morning: insurance. Because there was still one piece left to play. 2 days later, his phone buzzed. Not a call. A message. "From a burner account. You're disgusting. You ruined her life. She's lost everything. Hope it was worth it." He stared at the words. Didn't reply. Just scrolled. The account had no profile picture. No followers. Created that same week. It wasn't random. It was her or someone close to her, still trying to paint herself as the victim. So he opened his insurance folder and sent one file. Just one. A screen grab of the cruise's booking confirmation, under her sister's name, charged to his wife's credit card. Proof she not only lied about the trip but paid for her sister's silence. No caption, no explanation, just the truth. By the end of the week, he got a call from his lawyer. "She wants to settle," the attorney said. "Full separation, no alimony. She's withdrawing claims on joint assets." He didn't ask why, he already knew. Her public image was crumbling. People weren't sympathizing. They were dissecting. The video had been turned into memes. Commentators were breaking down her body language. Even a local radio host had referenced the cruise wife who got caught on TV. And her sister. Word was they hadn't spoken since the confrontation. He suspected guilt had finally eaten its way in. The settlement was signed on a Friday. Rain tapped the window as he inked his name one final time. The lawyer shook his hand. "This could have gotten messy," he said. "But you handled it with discipline. Discipline, that's what this had become, not revenge. Not rage, it was restraint. Documentation, calm exposure. He never screamed, he let the camera do the shouting." 1 week after the divorce finalized, he received a letter in the mail. Handwritten. No return address. He knew the handwriting. He opened it. "I never thought it would end this way. I thought you'd forgive me like before, but I don't blame you for not answering. The world hates me now. My sister blocked me, he left me. I don't know who I am without you. I hope someday you'll remember who I used to be." He folded the letter, placed it in the same envelope as the cruise stills, then taped it shut. Memories don't get erased, they get filed. He took a walk that evening, cool air, golden hour light brushing the street. He passed a couple laughing on a porch, kids riding scooters down the sidewalk. The world moved on. So did he. Back home, he poured a glass of wine, put on a jazz record, sat on the couch with no phone, no distraction, no ghosts, just silence. 6 months passed like the tide, slow, relentless, washing away what didn't belong by. Then the cruise video had faded from trending lists. The memes had dried up. People had moved on to the next scandal. But the quiet was exactly what he'd wanted. He had repainted the living room, changed the bedsheets, even removed the ring-shaped indentation from his dresser, and most importantly, he had moved forward, not in anger, but in truth. He began running again, dusted off his old DSLR, ate dinner with real appetite, even started talking, really talking, with a woman he'd met at a local bookstore. There was no rush. No games, just slow rebuilding, one brick at a time. He hadn't heard from her in months, not directly. The burner messages had stopped. The letter had been his final gift from her, and he never responded. The sister? Gone, unfollowed. No contact. The lover. Probably moved on to someone else's wife by now. That chapter was closed, or so he thought. One cold Wednesday morning, as autumn began to bite at the edges of the trees, he checked his email. Most of it was junk, coupons, newsletters, order confirmations, but one caught his eye, subject line. "You should know the truth about the cruise." Sender anonymous, sender 838@protonmail.com. He hovered for a moment. Spam? A troll? A phishing attempt? But something in his gut said, "Open it." He clicked. "I was on the same cruise, not part of your ex-wife's group. But I saw them. Your wife, her sister, and the guy. I didn't know what I was looking at the time, just a woman cheating, maybe. But a few weeks ago, I recognized her face on a podcast about the woman from the cruise. I remembered something strange I never mentioned to anyone. Your wife and her sister weren't just traveling together. They were fighting. Bad. One night, the sister stormed out of the lounge bar, said something about not being his second choice. I don't know exactly what that means, but the guy followed her out, not your wife. I figured it might mean nothing, but I took a photo that night, attached it here. Look closely. Do with it what you want. There was an attachment. JPG, one single image. He clicked it. The image was taken from behind, blurry but clear enough. The cruise lounge, dim blue lights, tables scattered with half-finished cocktails, and in the center her sister, red in the face, walking away. But the focus of the photo was him, the lover, not next to the wife, but standing close to the sister, leaning in, hand gently on her back. His wife, sitting alone, drink untouched, watching, expression unreadable. He stared at the photo for a full minute, then leaned back in his chair. What did it mean? Had her sister been more than just an accomplice? Was she the original lover? And his wife was the one who intruded? Or had the triangle been spinning longer than he thought? His mind flashed back to the confrontation at the port. How her sister couldn't meet his eyes. How she looked more shaken than his wife did. He thought she had felt guilty, but maybe she had felt replaced. He closed the image. No anger, no heartbreak, just clarity, deeper than before. He would never get the full truth. But he didn't need it anymore. The betrayal wasn't just an affair, it was a collapse of loyalty, between a wife and a husband, between two sisters, between the story he was told and the one that actually happened, and yet somehow knowing this made the betrayal smaller, because it wasn't about him. It never had been. He drafted a reply. Short. Thank you for the photo. I believe you. It's over. Now, but I appreciate the truth. He sent it. Then deleted the image, deleted the email, cleared the folder. He wouldn't keep collecting proof for a case that had already been won. That night he walked past the old drawer where the cruise stills had been. Empty now. He stopped, pulled it open. There, untouched, was the wedding ring. Not hers. His. He had never decided what to do with it. Pawn it? Throw it in the ocean like some dramatic movie ending? Instead, he picked it up, turned it in his fingers, then placed it into a small wooden box, closed the lid, and put it on the top shelf. Not because he wanted to keep the memory, but because he wanted to own the ending. A week later, he met the woman from the bookstore again. She laughed easily, asked real questions, and didn't blink when he mentioned a complicated divorce. They sat outside under the changing trees. No drama, no lies. Just two people in the after of something broken, finding something quiet in the middle of it all. And as the wind passed through the leaves and she touched his hand for the first time, he thought, betrayal had written the first half of his story. But peace, and the kind that comes not from revenge but from truth, was finally writing the rest.